Welcome to the Irish Snug Podcast. Today on the Irish Snug Podcast, we have Tom McLoughlin, a Dublin Fire Brigade firefighter, fire chief, longtime member of the Dublin Fire Brigade Pipe Band. He is a former band chairman and longtime friend of the New York City Fire Department Pipe Band. Tom, welcome to the Irish Snug.
Thanks very much, and great to be here.
This is my little pub setup.
Oh, very good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Great.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if, so when I first started this podcast about a year ago, it was first called Pubs and Pints. What happened was there's a podcast here with FDNY. It's called Getting Salty. I know the guy who runs it.
Yeah.
He asked me to be on his podcast. This is like a little over a year ago, and I was kind of reluctant. I honestly didn't want to go on it. But he talked me into it because he's a friend of mine and I like him. We both got promoted to lieutenant together back in 2002. And I said, all right, I'll do it. But I told him, I said, his podcasts are like 2 hours long. And I'm like, I don't have 2 hours worth of material. He's like, oh, you just write down some stuff, and I wrote down a bunch of things. And I do the podcast, 2 hours goes by and I didn't even get to a quarter of what I had on my list.
Yeah.
So what happens is you go down these rabbit holes. Anyway, after that experience, that was what gave me the idea of doing my own podcast, but not fire related, but something that I'm passionate about, which is Ireland and my Irish heritage. So I started Pubs and Pints thinking that I would go to pubs in Ireland and make like the podcast about individual pubs.
Yeah.
Not just in Ireland, but anywhere, any Irish pub. But the logistics behind that were crazy. I tried it like 2 or 3 different times. It's just too much. Like to have to go there, set up. I would have needed like a team of people. And then I came up with this idea of just doing like a remote podcast like this.
Yeah.
And it's just better. I like to just talk to people. That's really what it's about.
Well, it's funny you say that because when it was first muted to me about coming on doing the podcast, which I think was John Daly, who initially said it to me after you were speaking to him, and I was going, nah, that's not for me. I'm not doing that, Like yourself, wasn't into the stories and stuff like that. But of course, knowing you, Tim, and having listened to some of the podcasts, I said, yeah, sure, look at, why not? Have a chat.
Yeah.
It's just like sitting in a snug and going over a couple of stories.
Well,
so
that's really the concept, because think about it. You're sitting in a snug with a pint, couple friends, maybe a stranger.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have the greatest conversations.
Absolutely.
But then that's it. It's over.
But what tends to happen, Tim, is that the couple of points is quite important because the barriers come down. You're starting to be a bit more relaxed, and the stories just start to flow a bit better. I remember saying to you, I thought initially that there was going to be me and say John or Jerry Devine sitting in a snug somewhere in Dublin having a couple of pints, and then you were going to beam in, and I said, "Oh, that sounds like a plan, and we'll get out for a few pints and tell a few stories." But that wasn't the plan. But that's how I envisaged it at the start, But I'd say the stories probably would have been slightly different if that was the case, But I get the concept.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely would go different. And you know what? As this evolves, maybe we will do like a remote thing when I'll be in Dublin in October. Maybe I bring, a camera or two and we just kind of set up and do that as a, as a second part. We'll see.
Yeah. I obviously knew I was coming on today, and I was trying to think about my first interaction with the FDNY, in particular, FDNY Pipe Band. And I joined the fire service here, Dublin Fire Service, as a retained part-time firefighter in 1988. And
that's sort of like a volunteer almost, right here.
It's similar to the volunteer, only paid part time. So you get a wage and you become an employee of Dublin Fire Brigade, Dublin City Council, or Dublin Corporation, as it was at the time.
And they call
So
that retained? That's what they call it?
retained, yeah. And primarily the country, or Ireland, the country is primarily retained, that you have firefighters hired on a part-time basis, and they get their training, and they carry a pager, like a bleeper, and they have a certain amount of time to get from wherever they are to their station and respond to whatever the call may be. Now, it's quite difficult, and I did that for nearly 15 years, and I have to say, I was glad to see the back of it, because it took over your life, your family life, your social life. It was quite tough to do it, you know. But I joined that in 1988, and obviously a young 23-year-old, delighted to be involved in it, and had an interest in it. But I remember a year later, in 1989, the Dublin Fire Brigade Pipe Band were joining the FDNY Pipe Band at a function in Malahide Castle, which is where I live here in Malahide. And we were asked to bring the fire truck up and kind of just be there while the pipe bands were there. And that was my first interaction, really, with both the Dublin Fire Brigade Pipe Band and the FDNY Pipe Band. And I actually went back over a couple of old photographs, and I found a photograph of my mother, who's since deceased, with members of the FDNY Pipe Band. It was quite poignant to look back on that, you know.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So, and it was on that not until 1992 then I decided that, you know, look, I'm going to do this, and I ended up joining the Dublin Fire Brigade Pipe Band, and then kind of the rest is history. Our relationship with yourself and the FDNY since then has been huge.
You know, I was in Malahide probably 2 years ago. We played golf at Port Marnock.
Yeah.
Are you a golfer?
No.
I think you got all that great golf there, and you don't golf.
Yeah. I think it ruins a good walk.
Yeah. That's all right. That's good. Can you give us a quick background before the fire department? Did you grow up in, what was it, Malahide? You grew up?
Yeah. So my mother's from Longford, County Longford, it's in the middle of the country, and my father is from County Roscommon, small place outside Elphin, tiny little village there. And they moved to Malahide in the North County Dublin, kind of a seaside town, as you know. You have been here many moons ago, and I was born at home. I wasn't born at the hospital, born at home. So many years ago, and I've been in Malahide. I've been living in Malahide ever since. And it's been great. Went to school here. Married, 3 kids. All my kids went to school here. All grown up now and all doing very well. Yeah, and then obviously got involved with the Dublin Fire Brigade in 1988. I would have worked prior to that in retail. I would have done a bit of security work for a large retail, Quinsworth it was called at the time, and I would have done some security and some close protection work for you might have heard of a guy called Don Tidy, who was kidnapped by the IRA back in 1993. So I did a bit of close protection with him for a number of years before getting promoted in the retail. And then obviously having joined the Dublin Fire Brigade retained service back in 88, did that for a number of years. And then I would have been looking to do to get a full-time role with Dublin Fire Brigade. It wasn't happening for me. And ended up doing a few years working for the Irish Prison Service, the Correction Service. I worked in Mountjoy Prison for a number of years. A couple of interesting stories about that. And then was lucky enough to get a full-time post with Dublin Fire Brigade in 2003. And I'm still there. And look at the connection then, like it was very short after I joined the retained service in 88, and I ended up joining the pipe band in 92. There was myself and Stephen Penner, Steo, who went down to the OBI on a Monday night to join up with the band, and I had an interest in playing the drums, and Steve had an interest in playing the pipes. So when we went in the door, Steve went off to the piping practice, and I went into the drumming section, and obviously stayed there ever since. Steve, on the other hand, did a good few years piping, and then decided to come over to the the happy side over to the
Oh,
drummers.
as John Daly would say, the musician side.
Well, the guys with a bit of personality, I would say. As you said earlier on, I had numerous different roles within the executive of the band down through the years, holding the post of committee member, secretary, chairman for a number of years, and was heavily involved in the work we do here. As you know, we're all the pipe bands are busy all the time. There's always plenty of functions and gigs to attend, and then obviously our trips overseas, obviously to the States and further afield. In fact, my first trip with the band, myself and Steve, actually, our first trip with the band after joining in '92 was in 1993 when we were invited over to Moscow in Russia. Not sure where we're going now, but we went in 1933 for the 75th anniversary of their fire department at the time. And we went there for a week. I can't remember. There was about 26 of us, I think, that went over. And so we played a few gigs over there. Now, we were treated like royalty, nearly treated like diplomats when we were there. And that was my first trip away. And I have to say, it was memorable. A lot of stories there, some good stories, some funny stories. Some you probably wouldn't repeat on a podcast.
There's a saying that a lot of firemen say this. It's you can remember a third of your stories. You can't remember another third of the stories, and the other third you can't tell.
No, of course you can't tell. But I will tell you one small little story. You know Paul Shannon. Everyone knows Paul Shannon involved at Dublin Fire Brigade. Yeah, and Paul was Paul, I think, was the secretary of the band at the time. And very much the organizer himself, and Damien Fines, very much the organizers of the what went on in the band. So we all went over to Moscow, a super trip, and of course Paul Shannon doesn't drink alcohol, never did, and never does. But while we were there, we were going to function after function, and we went to one particularly important function where there was a few kind of chiefs and some diplomats and some leaders of the organization there. And I remember we were sitting around this big massive table, and they had like guys coming around filling our glasses, and of course they all wanted to make speeches, and for the speeches they used to fill this little shot glass with kind of 100% Russian vodka, and we were trying our best to drink some of it, but not drink it, because we knew if we start drinking all of this stuff, we were going to be on the floor. But we did our best. And of course, Paul Shannon, who didn't take a drink at all, ended up having a few of these shots of vodka. Oh boy is right. Yeah. And when we talk about it to this day, he was in a serious state for a day or two after that. And it's a very funny story, and there's other funny stories, around that. But that was the one and only time that Paul Shannon had any alcohol, when he was involved with the Fire Brigade Pipe Band.
Wow.
And we myself and John and John McNally, the current chairperson of the band, we went down to visit Paul Shannon there recently. He's it's important that I talk about him when I'm talking about Dublin Fire Brigade Pipe Band. Went down to visit him. He's in a nursing home in Maynooth, County Kildare, and he's in great form. He's in really good form. Obviously getting on in age, and the health is not great, but loves the stories, loves recounting the stories. And the last day we were down with him, he broke into a few songs, which was quite entertaining, I have to say.
Oh.
So yeah, no, it was good. I took a couple of videos of him, and I shared them with the band members, and it was great. It was great, So we'll keep in touch with him.
So throughout the years, you've been a very close friend with the FDNY Pipe Band, but being from Dublin, I'm sure you created friendships all over the world. Obviously Moscow, but what are the other places around the world that you've traveled to, or people have traveled to you, and you've become close friends, similar to how FDNY is with you guys?
Well, So it's important to mention the FDNY. Like we met, as I said, my first interaction with them was in 1989, and then my first trip then to New York, my first ever trip to New York with the band was in 1994, and we were going over there, and at the time we were there, the World Cup, the
Yes.
World Cup was on, and Ireland were in the World Cup at that time. Jack Charlton was our manager, and it was a great time. And I remember we were over there, beautiful weather, and the Ireland were playing Norway in Giant Stadium, and myself and my now wife Tina, both big soccer fans, we hadn't tickets. We didn't have tickets for the game, and most people had tickets, and tickets were hard to come by. But as it happened, we were in with the band. We were over at the New Jersey Garden State Irish Festival. We were at that. It was a big event that was on. Loads of entertainment there. The Wolf Tones were playing, so it was a really good day. We had a couple of beers, and we'd still no tickets for the game. And the game was on in a day or two later. But I remember we were walking around, and as we were walking around, we noticed this guy pushing a baby's buggy, and stuck to the baby, the front of the baby, was a little sign saying 2 tickets to the Ireland-Norway game for sale. So we stopped him and said, look, what's the deal with the tickets, you know? And he says, yeah, I'm selling 2 tickets. I can't make it. I'm $130 each, which would have been quite expensive at the time.
Right.
So I tried to haggle with him a bit on the price, and he wasn't budging. But I was wearing a Dublin Fire Brigade baseball cap, and he said, "I'll tell you what, I'll give them to you for $120 each if you give me the baseball cap." And I went, "Fair enough. We're here. We're going to get the tickets." So I gave him the baseball hat. He gave me the 2 tickets, $240, and we went to we ended up going to the Ireland-Norway game in Giant Stadium, which was fantastic. You know. Obviously met up with the FDNY guys on that particular trip. I think if I'm not mistaken, we played down in Scarsdale together at a gig down there as part of the Irish Festival thing. But getting back to your original question, and we've been back and forth obviously a number of times, both ourselves going to New York and New York coming to us. But we've done a good few of the States over the years. We've been to, our last trip there was to Palm Beach in Florida, Delray Beach in Florida, for their Patrick's Day parade last year, which was excellent. A good group of us went over to that. And that would have been probably my 3rd time in Delray for the parade in Delray. And Delray is great because you get to meet not only your FDNY colleagues, you get to meet the guys from DC and Greater Boston and Palm Beach, and so it's a great time for us all to get together. Not just for pipe band stuff, but for meeting for a few beers, a bit of crack. And
did you go to the bar Johnny Brown's while you were there? The one that's right on the railroad track.
Oh, on the corner at the railroad track.
Yes.
Yeah, not this time we didn't go there, but we'd been there before. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty. That's like atmosphere when they're all in cahoots with the guy who drives the train, and it comes through like every hour, and the band stops playing. Everybody's like quiet.
Yeah.
So the train comes by, they honk the horn. Everybody goes crazy.
Yeah.
And then the countdown happens again, like because it's an hour later. It's great atmosphere there.
No, it's good, and we've thoroughly enjoyed our time there. And obviously we've been to Washington DC, we've been to Chicago, we've been to Kansas. We went to the Paddy's Day Parade in Kansas. That was really good. And even closer afield, we did the Patrick's Day Parade in London. We did Patrick's Day Parade in Belfast. We did a gig over in Ghent in Belgium there a couple of years ago. So yeah, we've been around. I have to say, and I often say to people who are in the fire brigade here, join the pipe band and see the world. And it's exactly what actually happens. And I try to encourage people to join the band. But anyone involved in it, who's done any trips away, and even with the groups coming to Dublin as well to meet with us, it's been just fantastic. Like even last Patrick's Day, we had a number of bands over for St. Patrick's Day, and we had a great parade, great bit of sunshine, and we had a great after party, and it was excellent, you know.
I wish we could do it. I wish the issue with us is it's always on St. Patrick's Day, and we're never going to miss the New York City St. Patrick's Day parade. You know,
and of course the St. Patrick's Day parade in New York is just it's fantastic. It's huge. I'm not sure what year. I think we did it in '96. Thoroughly enjoyed it in '96, and then obviously the after party back to the Armory afterwards, and all that went with that. Over the few days that we were there, I remember even going out on Marine One, out onto the water, out to the Statue of Liberty, and really well looked after, which is what normally happens, which is really good. So a massive relationship there, and obviously made some really good friends while we were there and over the years. And I think then the time after that, I think unfortunately the next time after that I went would have been after 9/11, when we went over to Bronco's funeral. So that was a tough time, but we were delighted to be there. Only a small group of us went over. I think it was 5 or 6 of us went over for the funeral, and but even though it was a terrible time and a sad time, it sticks in your memory. It's one of those memorable times in your visit to New York.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Those were tough times. I could tell you my first time I met the Dublin Fire Brigade guys was it was in 1995. There was a bunch of us that came over. Well, there's 5 of us, and including Bronco, Joe Murphy, there was Liam, Tommy Canine. There was a couple guys. You know, there was I think there was 5 or 6 of us, and we went to the Rose of Tralee festival, and we marched with you guys. That was 1995, and they had their parade, so we marched with you guys, and that was when I first met John Daly. That's when I first met Peter Hedderman, who I wanted to
never heard of him.
I wanted to kill him. We were staying in some we were staying with
Sports
the Dublin
hall.
Fire Brigade in like some school, like the gym floor or something.
Yeah,
like the mats. That's what we were sleeping on.
Yeah.
And I remember being hung over one morning, and Hedder this is my first introduction to Pete Hedderman, and he's got a broomstick, and he's going, wakey, 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 wakey. He's poking us, and we're like, get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I wanted to kill him. But then, you know, you learn to love him. He was quite the character. I remember he had a business card that he would hand everybody, and it said, Peter Hedderman, ladies' man.
Yeah, Peter's great, and there's just loads of stories of Peter. He was very entertaining on the trips when we used to go on the trips to the States. And you know, there are always the long haul trips. There's a long haul flight, or there may be a connecting flight, and then there may be a 2 or 3 hour coach journey to your final destination. I remember we went to Florida and DC one year, and there was a good bit of traveling in between. And of course, you'd be all fairly tired from one thing and another, and of course, having a couple of beers on the bus. But Hedder would be able to walk in between the seats of the bus from the time he left or wherever we were leaving to our destination, and he'd be entertaining the crowd. He would have the energy to just keep going, and the laugh and the crack and the singing and the beers. They were great memories.
Yeah, you know what? And you have to have that guy. You know, we always had that guy back in, you know, when I first came into BIN, you had guys like Gene Freyer, who was, that was a guy that could roast anybody. He could roast the president of the United States and get away with it, because that's just the personality he had. Yeah. And his voice, he could sing, he'd write songs, and talk about entertainment. Him, John Cox. Oh my God.
Yeah, I always remember Hedder's party piece used to be the river dance. That was a sight to see.
Okay.
You know,
I'm sure it was a sight to see.
But Hedder's he was unwell for a little while there. He took a bit of a break from the band, and thankfully now he's back with us. He's been He's been back playing a few gigs and so on. And Bobby, his brother, is there as well. And yeah, some of the old stalwarts are still knocking around. We're some people would say we're an aging band, but we are, of course, and like the FDNY, there's a lot of the older guys there, and there's a lot of new lads coming through, and new lads learning the pipes and drums, new lads taking on committee roles and executive roles, and so hopefully the future is bright for the band, when the older guys are starting to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, you need that younger generation coming through for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
New personalities, new humor, all of it.
Yeah,
it's important.
Yeah. I meant to say to you there when I was talking to you about the '94 trip. As a side note to that, so the trip was announced in '94 that we're going over to the World Cup to New York, and myself and my now wife Tina were getting married in '94, and obviously we were saving our money and whatever. And we said, look, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Trip to New York. We hadn't been to New York, and of course the World Cup. Obviously the World Cup was important. So we scratched the wedding and decided to take the trip instead, and then we got married in '95, and we always get reminded of that story. So yeah, it was worth doing.
Is she the one that reminds you of it all the time?
Well, I don't know. She was all for it at the time. No problem at all.
She was part of it.
Yeah. So
that's
it was
great.
good. Yeah. And I remember the FDNY came over to, I think it was the All Irelands in Letterkenny in Donegal in 2006, I think.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
Yeah, you were there for that one. We stayed, and we were using the fire station as a base because the competition was in the green area across from the fire station. And I remember contacting the station officer captain at the time, or in your terms, in Letterkenny Fire Station, Mick Malahide, and saying to him, look, is there any chance that we're going to be there taking part in the competition, and we have a gang coming over from New York, but there any chance we could use the facilities of the station, And he said, absolutely no problem at all. That kind of, I suppose, brotherhood is there, alive and well. No problem at all. So we went down and we actually did take over the place, as you might remember.
That's where I slept. I slept there.
Yeah. So it was great. And it's great to see Mick Malloy, that particular guy, has been friends with us ever since and has done a few trips away with us with the band, and we still chat to him to this day. Really
My father was with me on that trip.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was there, and I've been to Letterkenny since then too. And there's the pub that I remember going to. That's 2006, right?
Yeah.
There's a pub in town there now. It's McGinley's now, but I don't think it was called McGinley's back then.
Yeah.
It was a great pub. We remember the upstairs, very, very authentic type Irish pub. A really nice place. I love Letterkenny. It's a great town. Yeah,
I've been up a few times. I've actually met Mick Malloy a few times up there, and I just noticed there. My young lad plays soccer. He's back playing soccer now again. He was injured there for a while, and he's just got his fixtures for the coming season. And Letterkenny is on the fixture list, so we'll be back up there very soon. Really good.
As a side note, because I don't want to forget to tell you this, but I didn't realize you were from Malahide. But a buddy of mine, Timmy Murphy, just landed in Ireland this morning. He flew out last night. He landed this morning, and I think he's staying in Malahide for 3 nights.
Well, certainly pass on my details.
This is a guy that I go to Ireland every October with a group of 10 guys, and we do a pub crawl in a different part of Ireland. We've been doing this year. This October is going to be our 11th year, and it's just 3 nights. It's a 3-night pub. I told this to John Daly. He's like,
Bender,
Ireland for 3 nights. He when I was the last time I was in Dublin with these guys, he met up with us. I don't know if you were there that night, but we'll be in Dublin again this October for 1 night. We're going to Belfast for 2 nights. Then we're going to be in Dublin for 1 night.
Because you're saying Timmy Murphy's there, but are you over for your 3 days pub crawl in October?
Yeah, That's what we're going to be in Belfast for 2 nights and Dublin for 1 night. I'll let you know.
I'll
let you know. I told Jerry Devine, I told John Daly, just letting guys know that we are going to be there for 1 night, so we'll hook up for some pints.
We'll hook up for a pint, yeah. I'm actually in Belfast next week. We're going up to the Fla. The Fla's on in Belfast now for a week.
Yeah, so my cousin Dawn Doherty, she's a musician. She usually wins those things for this slow air. She's a plays a tin whistle.
All right, okay.
She's from Mayo, but she lives in New York. She has a music school, an Irish music school in Woodlawn in the Bronx.
All right.
Yonkers, whatever you want to, that's right on the border. But yeah, she's very, very good tin whistle player. She's been on my podcast, but she'll be at the Fla. If you're there, look for the Tin Whistlers.
All right.
And
you better give me her name again.
Dawn Doherty. She has a son. He's maybe 8 or 9. I don't even think he's 8 years old. He's going to be competing as well.
Oh.
But you'd love to listen to her play, because I think she's won the whole thing like a few times, at least once.
Well, I'll certainly look out for her. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that'd be interesting. I'll certainly look her up. Looking forward to going up there, actually.
Yeah, it'd be great. With the Dublin Fire Brigade Pipe Band, obviously you're an Irish pipe band. Do you play Irish and Scottish music, or are you just playing Irish music? What's your repertoire?
So yeah, it's a bit of both, really. What we're actually looking to do is we're looking to we're very traditional. Like we've been like everything we've been doing up to now, and we're going heading into our 41st year now, and everything we've been doing up to now has been very traditional pipe band, music, deportment. Everything has been very traditional, and we've got 2 excellent instructors, Kieran Mordaunt on the drums and Dave Rickard on the pipes, and these are very much pipe band royalty in Ireland, and will be known across the world. Certainly Kieran for his judging and stuff like that. But if you said to them you wanted to kind of diverge away from the traditional stuff, they wouldn't be happy with it. Although, they're instructors and we pay their fees and whatever, but they wouldn't be happy with it. So we've been very traditional in terms of what we play and how we present ourselves, and it's been great. For all these years, and we never really went away. We never kind of, even party pieces and upbeat kind of changing the rhythm a little bit. We've never really done that, and we've been always very strict and even how we would dress. You'd never see us wearing a kilt and a pair of flip flops, for example. You'd never see that. But we spoke recently there about maybe changing things up a little bit, just to make it just that little bit more entertaining, because times are changing, and maybe to attract more people in and having a few more party tunes, and but that's in negotiations at the moment. But there's a lot of support for that there now. But up to now it was your, I won't say typical traditional pipe band, whether it be Irish or Scottish tunes, but it's been very much like that. Your Dawning of the Day, the 20 Men from Dublin Town, all those type of tunes, which we've been playing for a long, long time. And maybe a little change is needed at this stage,
It's a great conversation, because I think a lot of bands are having that same conversation. Just to attract the younger generation, to get, I mean, look at, even in the United States, you have, there are some people that are against it, but you have Allie the Piper. She goes around and she's wailing out, hard rock Metallica songs on the bagpipes, and she's selling out shows. But you know why? Because people want to listen to that. They, it's something new, and they want to learn it. They want to learn how to play Thunderstruck on the bagpipes. So there is definitely a need for at least the conversation of changing things up a little bit, maybe not so drastic, but I think sorry for cutting across you. I think
there's probably a middle ground there. Like we certainly won't be doing Thunderstruck, I don't think. But
Right.
but there are certain tunes that we could do that kind of change it up a little bit and give that more of a party feel, and maybe get more interest from a younger crowd. We witnessed it ourselves even last Patrick's Day, when we had the Greater Boston guys over and the Palm Beach guys over, and they play a little bit of that, and it was very entertaining. I have to say, very entertaining.
Yeah.
And while we're very, we always said that we were never going to be a grade 1 or grade 2 band, or we were always, we had a certain level that we could reach, and we attracted that kind of a player. So mixing it up a little bit is for sure a conversation that has to be had.
Yeah. Now, uniform. We get the question a lot of times, about our tartan, the FDNY tartan, and the fact that I always heard how an Irish pipe band has a solid kilt, where a Scottish band has a tartan. And why is it that the FDNY, who is an Emerald Society Irish pipe band, why does it wear a tartan? And I give the example of, the reason why we have a tartan is because all of the colors mean something. Like the black represents the firemen that died in the line of duty. The blue represents the firefighters. The white in our kilt represents the officers. And the green represents our Irish roots and the Emerald Society. So I know that the Dublin Pipe Band originally had a solid kilt. So, and now you have the tartan. What are the reasons behind that change?
So we did have the solid blue tartan, or sorry, blue kilt. We had the solid blue. It's actually gas you mentioned, because we're in conversation at the moment about changing things up a little bit. We had the solid blue, which was representing Dublin. That's what that was doing. It was the Dublin blue colour, and that's what we wore as our solid blue kilt. And then we changed that. I can't remember the year we changed that to the tartan, and we wanted to keep with the blue, the kind of uniform of the Fire Brigade and the Dublin colour. We wanted to keep with that, but we wanted a tartan. And we ended up getting the Edzell tartan, which is actually a US tartan. I think it's US Navy, if I'm not mistaken. But the colours in that, like what you said, there's the blue for Dublin City, and there's the red for your red Fire Brigade colours.
Right.
And they are the two primary colours that are in the kilt, and obviously there's a white going through it as well. So that was the reason for the change. You wanted to go to a tartan. Now you could. Some conversation is, if you look at the Irish Army colour, which is a kind of a orangey, rusty colour, that they use that colour. We're actually in discussion at the moment about changing our look a little bit. We feel that the uniform is getting a bit old and tattered looking at the moment. We have a good few years. So that's up for discussion. But I think we're going to stick with the tartan. I think that's going to stay the same. And there was an interest in going back to the plain colour, but I think the tartan is there to stay.
Joe Murphy.
Yeah,
Joe Murphy. You obviously remember Joe Murphy.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
John Daly, he called me. He was in Florida on vacation. And he just went home with his family. He just landed in the airport, and he found out that Joe Murphy passed away, who was our band chairman many years ago. Matter of fact, Joe was with us on that very first trip I took when we were at the Rose of Tralee festival, the Rose of Tralee parade. Joe was on that trip as well. But Joe passed away. John he just got off the plane with his family. He gets the phone call that Joe passed away, and he gets right back on a plane and comes back to New York.
Yeah.
That's the friendships that we have. Yeah. He got right back on a plane. Joe was quite the character, as you know.
He certainly was. And I used to love when Joe and the likes of Paul Shannon used to get together. The stories and the banter, and they were kind of, in around the kind of same age bracket, and they were the old, and they're great for the stories. And when you're out with the band, people kind of people are you attract people. People come to you and look at, they want to talk to you and ask questions and tell you stories and whatever else. And we used to always just direct them over to Paul Shannon, or if Joe was there, if you want to know anything about the FDNY, you just go over to Joe there. He'll give you all the details, But yeah, fantastic. But I'm not surprised to hear and I knew about the John Daly story about him going back over to the funeral. Yeah, there is that huge connection there, and family like, indeed. It's a bit like when Bronco. I know Bronco obviously, when obviously Bronco went missing, obviously in 9/11, and wasn't recovered till the October. And we got word that he'd been recovered, that it was without hesitation. We said, we're going over to pay our respects and show solidarity with the guys, and pay our respects to Bronco and all of that. That's always been there. And even I remember meeting Liam Flaherty when we were there, and there was a suggestion that that we would go down to the site to more just to show a bit of solidarity with the lads, the FDNY guys that were down there, and the NYPD, and all the other services that were there. And so arrangements were made for us to go down to the site, which was unbelievable. And I'll never forget it. I remember Liam organising a couple of minibuses from the FDNY to bring us down. And a very kind of a very solemn kind of experience. We got down to a certain distance into it, and then we had to transfer from the minibuses into golf buggies, because the ground was still kind of soft. It was still deemed to be a working site or a recovery site. But Liam brought us down anyway, and we obviously met up with the FDNY guys down there. And it meant so much to us to be there, for the guys that were there. And we attended a couple of the funerals. Why we weren't there for long. We were only there for a few days. But in particular, Bronco, and then going back to Bronco's burial. And there's a good photograph I have done. Have you seen it? It's still knocking around. When we were lowering the casket of Bronco, and we were standing around, and of course the bottle of Redbreast whiskey came out. And we all poured a small glass of whiskey, and obviously poured a drop in on Bronco, and saluted him. And someone took a photograph, and there's myself and Liam and John Daly and a couple of other guys from the FDNY in that photograph. I still have it, actually. And so and that will continue, I think, our relationship with the FDNY. And so no surprises that John did what he did when going to Joe Murphy's thing.
I also have a picture of that final pour of the Redbreast onto Bronco's casket was by Billy Murphy. Yeah, Billy was pouring the Redbreast on the casket. Great man. That guy, he didn't look Irish at all, but I remember one time we were in Johnny Fox's, and we were all singing these songs, and Bronco was singing. Bronco knew every word to every song, and it was actually interesting to see him. He was Irish. He was Irish and Italian. He looked a little bit more Italian. He used to say, I look more Lebanese, like that. I don't even know what Lebanese looks like, but
maybe his facial features. Yeah, but he was a big man.
He was a big man. Big man. Yeah. But it was funny to watch him sing all these Irish songs. Yeah. And Joe Murphy too. Joe Murphy had quite the voice, because everybody'd be singing here, and Joe Murphy's voice would be like an octave higher. And I used to tell people, "Oh yeah, he's just singing in harmony." If you listen, we have the Bagpipe Band CD that we came out. Before 9/11, that CD came out, and the last song on there is us singing the Minster Boy. And you can hear what I'm talking about. Joe Murphy's voice is in the background, like in some kind of his own harmony. So funny.
Oh, I was great characters, super
Oh,
characters.
great crack, yeah. That you mentioned that you worked in that prison before you came
Yeah.
on the job, and you had a few stories from that. Is there anything that you
Well,
can share with that?
there's obviously the stories from there are not, not kind of stories you'd be sharing really. But I got involved at that time, which was a great honor, I suppose. I got involved with their color guard or their honor guard they had at the time, and it was a big deal at the time because uh, it was in 2001 they were reinterning the remains of the 10 Irish volunteers from who were hung and executed and buried in Mountjoy Prison, and they were taking them back up and reburying them in Glasnevin Cemetery. And I got involved in that, and I ended up being the pallbearer for the coffin of Kevin Barry, which is was an absolute honor to do at the time.
Yeah.
And I've got photographs of that as well. It was a tragic time, obviously. 10 known as the unknown 10 or the forgotten 10 that were buried there, amongst others that were hung at the time, executed, and Kevin Barry in particular, who was only an 18-year-old. But to be a pallbearer for that while I was working for the Irish Prison Service was quite an honour. And they ended up getting a full state military funeral after all those years. Yeah.
What year was that with Kevin
That would have been that would have been 2001 as well. 2001.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, it was great to catch up with you.
No, look at that. Thanks for having me on, and looking forward to continued friendship.
Yeah, that's the number one thing here. But great catching up with you, Tom, and I will definitely get in touch with you in October. I'll send you the information of when I'll be in Dublin.
Great, and we'll have a pint.
Yeah, sounds great.